There. Okay. I'm going to do this video. This video is going to be just on a video I watched of Lexus Exodus. I watch her often, and you know, this is in no way to talk gangster video of any sort. I mean, I have different opinions than her on some issues, and some I agree with her on. But there is some point of her colorism video that I wanted to address because I felt like um, this is an issue that was kind of connected to what I was talking about earlier, on my other video pertaining to other races of men and things of that nature. But for me, I just felt like a lot of the time people do not really pay attention to the different experiences you might experience with uh, different people and their preferences and their interests. And also, you know, there's a lot of different types of people who come from different walks of life and therefore have different experiences with different types of people, and therefore their preferences develop that way. And, you know, it also might have to do with their background as well. I find often on channels like these where it's focused on, darker skinned black women and their perspective of everything. But it's always like, you know, no knock at it, but, there's different experiences for black women depending on, different qualities of their life. It could have to do with their background, their culture, where they live in the world, or, their socioeconomic status, or it could have to do with their racial background, whether they're mixed or whether they're fully black, or if they're lighter skinned or darker skinned. It's just different things and different aspects to know really the different experiences one would have with different types of people. Um, I found like, as far as the video, I kind of felt like, the first part, I don't really pay much attention to what like black men have interest in white women or anything of that nature. Um, it's not something I'm concerned about. If anything, you know me, I kind of actually support black men and how they might date other races. I mean, to me, I see them kind of like the same as me, but that's not the point of this video. I wanted to kind of address the whole point of, white men, really. And, like, this is the whole thing for me. It's, like, hard to really talk about anything, it seems like, because everybody has a certain view and everyone has a certain agenda. You know, like basically a year ago, yeah, it's been a year ago, like slightly over a year ago, actually. I was on a live stream. It was like a panel. Well, I kind of just like basically called in to her show. And I was basically trying to like share my experiences. And anytime I share my experiences, I'm always a black man or I'm a white woman. It's always the same thing. So I'm always really careful because it's always like I don't have the same experience as a lot of people from those sectors and platforms really. They like talk about like things with colorism pertaining to black men. And yeah, generally, if anything I've experienced with black men has been hair texture, but it's weird. Like sometimes black men have actually said things about my hair that was actually the most positive thing I've ever heard anyone say about my hair. Um, but um, like, of course, I've still experienced like them being negative as well. And I mean, I really haven't experienced anything with other races pertaining to my hair type, really at all. But, you know, there's one part, like I said in her video, where she's talking about like colorism and saying, how she experienced more colorism with black men and them attacking women like herself. And I kind of am like, you know, I don't, my personal problem with them was always harassment. With white men, she was kind of like saying how most of the time with white men that they don't have issues with colorism or things of that nature. And that's that was what her experience was if they're into black women. Personally, for me, it's like I feel like some people experience things with people that doesn't really that doesn't really like it's basically like you experience something through your life as yourself but not as like other people basically. And you don't know what every black woman experiences in any scope of the matter. So, like, for example, like I said with black men, my experience has usually been harassment. Well, I assume that every black woman has been harassed completely and like had to make like 5 police reports and had to be harassed in bathrooms and all sorts of other crazy things that happened. Well, I assume that that's the biggest issue for black women. No, I won't. I just assume that that's my problem. And for whatever reason, I encounter a lot of problems with black men in these regards. I kind of feel like with the other way around that people have different experiences and there's another point to this. Like, I addressed in my past videos about the whole situation with Halle Berry and that and Serena Williams and that whole statement with that guy who said what he said. You know, a lot of the time with people like that, like I said in the past, is they can sometimes have like a toleration rather than a preference, right? So I feel like many of the time with women like that who say they don't experience, you know, white men who are, I guess, have a preference of some sort or have a different idea of interest in certain women, I feel like you run into what you're going to run into, basically. So, like, I've said this so many times with dark skinned black women that many of the time they get lucky, basically, so to speak, where like they get a lot of situations where it's either a hit or a miss situation. So, like, if you are not, say you are not attracted to black men, but you are attracted to Hispanic men, Asian men, Indian men. This is basically like me. You might, like, you probably will never date or have anything to do with a black man, an unambiguous dark skinned black man. That's why, for me, you would find that I do not, date. I don't have sex dreams. I don't make out with. I don't even look in the direction of a dark skinned, unambiguous black man. And I will never bump into being with a black man of that sort. Say if I prefer Hispanic men, say if I prefer Italian men, say if I prefer Indian men or Asian men, hitting home, um, then if I were to possibly, find a black man who is mixed or, looked more ambiguous, but maybe was a color, you know, I could end up I could end up talking to a guy like that. You know, I could end up having more interaction with them, basically, to one extent or another. And, you know, basically, if I have a preference outside of black men, I'm probably never going to be with a dark skinned black man. So he's never going to interact with me or, experience my lack of interest in him because there's going to be nothing there. Someone who is more mixed or ambiguous will be more likely to bump into people like that. So going back to what I was saying originally, oh, Oh, hi, Travels of a Black Rose. Yeah, a lot of the Black women on Black women channels have a lot of the same point of view and experiences. I can relate to you more, and you put a different spin on the common narratives out there. Well, thank you out here. Um, yeah, thank you. I try to just give my point of view basically, but um, yeah, going back to what I was saying, I um, I just kind of feel like with that whole situation of her saying, black men, I mean, yeah, black men having more of a problem, with skin tone, but she didn't really experience it with like white men. To me, I feel like, you know, it's a good thing. It's a good situation because what happens is, like I said, she's not going to interact with anybody who, doesn't prefer her or tolerates her, so to speak, because, they're going to either want her or they're not going to want her. So she's not going to really interact with the problem of someone not actually, someone who cares about those kinds of issues, you know. Say if they are of, you know, a different race, if they're white or Hispanic or another race. Personally, for me, it's always been, you know, a thing where personally, I've always thought I actually experienced more problems the other way around when it comes to those issues. Because if you look, like I said, more ambiguous or you look more mixed, it's more of a problem because then you do run into people that, you know, don't prefer you, but are willing to entertain being involved with you in some regard. And like for me, I mean, it's not a good thing for sure. I mean, like I've had many experiences where like people would like women of color, like they like Hispanic women or they like Asian women or, they like Indian, but they still will, date you or whatever because you're, think like especially if they don't actually know your ethnic background because they might think you are mixed with those things. So anyway, I just felt like because some people who are white or Hispanic or something may have those issues, but they won't really experience it, and they're lucky to not experience it, honestly. But I just felt like it was an incorrect depiction of how other people might experience situations in life when it comes to men of other races because it just depends really. I kind of feel like honestly someone who is white passing, for example, would in my opinion probably deal with like the most colorism from certain people because think of it, if someone is attracted to mainly white people but someone is like, for example, like a healthy or something of that nature, she's going to probably attract people who are attracted to white people, but she is a darker white phenotype. Someone like that would still experience that type of person who has a preference towards people who are even more, Caucasian in appearance, and therefore might encounter, more situations of, colorism or racism. It's like any other situation, honestly. Um, so honestly, my whole idea of like how I perceive the situation is I don't obviously prefer it. And I mean, like, that's not the ideal situation to be in. But I also don't judge people who have different preferences. I think that's the thing with me. It kind of like goes back to what I was saying with certain channels, how they might have an issue with someone um, not preferring them. Um, as opposed to preferring something else, you know. And I think my lack of concern has a lot to do with my own preference because I kind of think of it this way. Like, if I don't prefer, black men, then why would I expect or demand others to prefer something that they don't prefer? You know what I mean? At least that's how I see it. I see it like kind of like, well, I don't prefer black men, so how can I really how can I really demand, like, for example, with black men, how can I really demand black men to prefer black women when I can't prefer black men myself? I mean, he's literally doing the same thing as me. So to me, it's just kind of like that's why I have less of a concern when it comes to issues like that. And like, honestly, with other races of men, I don't generally, like I said in my previous video, I generally don't have any issue with people, not like having whatever preference they have. Because to me, it's like I have my preference and I expect others to respect that. So I try to give other people that respect as well. And I don't really care what that preference is. Like, I don't really see people as racist or colorist for their preference for whatever race their preference is, really. Because I mean, like I said, I kind of see it like, personally, I prefer, you know, I prefer other races than like black men. I've never preferred black men. I've never had any attraction to black men. That's just a part of my sexuality. And I mean, people can't change their sexuality, you know. So I mean, like, I think it's best to respect people's sexuality and not make an assumption that it's automatically hate or, self hate for not being one who prefers people of a specific race. I feel like people should give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm not saying that everybody is not racist or not colorist, but I'm saying that based off of sexual attraction, I just can't blame anybody or fault anyone for their attraction or lack of attraction to a specific person of a specific race when I can't find people of a specific race attractive either. I mean, I can't find Asian men attractive. I can't find black men attractive. And I don't expect or want other people to see me as, colorist or racist or self-hating because I can't find myself sexually attracted to these people. So that's in part why I felt like, that part was the whole part about, the interaction with white men to me was just different and also kind of like inaccurate in how other people might experience different situations. Oh, there's another one. Hi, Rex Rogers. Thanks for stopping by. With that in mind, I mean, there's well more than enough, you know, Hispanic men, white men, black men, Asian men, um, that don't have a preference or have a preference towards black women, things of that nature. And I mean, personally for me, I date white men only, basically. Well, mostly. I guess you could say four. I've dated four white men and I've dated four Hispanic men consistently. Um, and to me, it's like, well, if you look at the population, it really doesn't matter about preference, really, because I mean, there's well more than enough people of Hispanic and white ancestry over black men. So, and plus, I mean, like, even if there were enough black men, I would only like mixed men. So, for me, it just is more of a benefit to me. And I just think, like, honestly, in a country where it's a majority white, I don't understand why anyone would limit themselves only to black people to be in relationships with and date, you know. But, I mean, with that in mind, I'm not going to say that, everyone prefers black women or anything of that nature either. But I don't think everyone's bad for that either. I just think people like what they like, and there's enough to go around. But with all that in mind, just I am just basically I'm not really one to really be much of the type that basically goes two-faced on people, where like they basically say, you know, um, expect dark skinned black men to have a preference in favor of black women or anything. And I honestly give that courtesy to, other races as well. To me, I just think, I don't expect I don't expect white women to prefer black men or Hispanic men or any men for that matter. I mean, I just don't expect people to, prefer whatever I want them to prefer. I think people are free to have a preference however they want to have a preference. And, you know, I don't think that that makes them racist or colorist at all. But I just wanted to basically chime in and add my opinion on that video. I liked her channel honestly on other regards. It's just like the whole part with like white women and black men that kind of like doesn't sit too well with me because it's like um you know, I feel like black men shouldn't be a focus if you're not attracted to them, if you're not dating them, if you're not with them. For me, black men aren't my focus, period. It doesn't matter. It's just like they're not my focus. The only thing they're my focus with is like um their image, the way they present themselves as black people because I have to share the same race as them. So, I mean, that is a concern. But, I mean, as far as what kind of husband they make or what kind of father they make or whatever, like, those aren't my issues. I'm not with the black man. I'm not going to have children with the black man. And so, I mean, I don't really care about those issues. As far as like other things like as far as like white women, I don't have any hate towards them. I grew up with a lot of white people, so I mean that includes white women, so I literally have no negativity there. But yeah, that's just basically all I had to say in this video. I think people have different preferences, and those preferences should be accepted, no matter who it's from. And I don't feel like everyone's going to experience the same thing. Oh, there's a few comments. Travels of a Black Rose. Yeah, you'll never agree with everyone all the time. Just take the meat and out the bone. Spit out the bone. Yeah, exactly. But I just wanted to basically share my experience basically with like colorism as far as like other races. Because for me, like I said, I've had some experiences where, you're with a guy and, he is into you, but he's never, like, he generally dates women of color, but he doesn't date black women and things of that nature. And I mean, I don't know, that's a little uncomfortable for me. I don't know. But yeah, that's basically all I had to say. It's just like, yeah, some people interact with some people like that, some people don't. I think the people who don't are pretty lucky. So that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye. Actually, I'm going to do another video too.